Right, do I just start talking? Is that what this is? Hello, oh, you can hear me, that's brilliant. Good evening, everybody. Hey, wherever you're watching and listening, whether you're here in 03MS01, whether you're listening on the live stream at home, good evening and welcome to SurreyDecides question time, and this is a by-election and referendum special. Ooh, yeah. During this evening's debates, let's not forget that we are all here to find out more about the students who have put themselves forward to be your fifth member of the support zone and to discuss the NUS referendum in order to help you decide how to cast your votes when voting opens. We're not here to victimise anyone who has voluntarily come forward to give something back to the students at Surrey. We encourage all of you, whether you're in the room or listening at home, to submit questions to Twitter and Facebook using the hashtag SurreyDecides. But please be aware that any form of hate speech or abusive language will be taken very, very seriously. Thank you all for listening. Let's begin the first of tonight's debates. Yeah, that round of applause is a little bit underwhelming. You have to do better next time. So, it's time to introduce the candidates for the support zone. You will notice that there's just a couple of computer screens around me. So we have two candidates, Sunny Patel and Hannah. I don't have Hannah's last name, which is poor of me. Where are you, Hannah? Can you tell us what your last name is? She's not on the screen. There you go. So Hannah is joining us from Australia. It's 4 AM there, so I think that deserves a round of applause. And Sunny can't be with us this evening, so he has submitted an answer to the pre-prepared question, which we will begin the debate with. The pre-submitted question that all of the support zone candidates were given was, with exams just around the corner, as a member of the zone committee, how would you make sure that students feel supported at this stressful time? This is Sunny Patel's answer. Hello everyone. Firstly, I'd like to apologise for not being able to make it tonight, and I hope you will all enjoy the evening. As you may know, I am standing to be a member of the Support Zone Committee. With exams and deadlines just around the corner, I fully empathise that for many of us this is a stressful period of time. If elected as member, I would make it a mission to make the support services at the Centre for Wellbeing more accessible for a greater proportion of the students at Surrey. A lot of us don't know what support is on offer, and one of the best ways to make us as students feel like we are supported during our studies is by being aware of what's available to us. This is something I'd have great pleasure in working on with the committee. Thank you. A round of applause for Sunny's answer there. Thank you. Over to you then, Hannah. Your answer to the pre-prepared question, please.
So I understand that obviously exam time comes around and people's stress levels go ridiculously through the roof. And yeah, Sunny's right, there are other support services available on campus, but the main thing is I think students panic about going out to seek help actively, and so if we bring support to them in more accessible places. And so recently I heard from some friends that the union were giving out free snacks in the library, and I think if we elaborate on that, things like 3 cups of coffee, 3 cups of tea, just like general healthy snacks that they have free available there. Things like maybe yoga classes or stress relieving sports like kickboxing, just like to have those, a couple of sessions where students can go during their revision breaks, let off some steam. And another thing I noticed that was really popular was the pet therapy. And I think bringing more of that to the campus would be great. And not just dogs, other animals that are available, and put them in different locations. So, students don't just have to crowd in one place. They can go to different places, have the stress relief, go back for revision. And it's just little things that they appreciate during that time. It doesn't have to be anything major.
Hannah, thank you very much. Round of applause for that. So I apologise that this debate is going to be a little bit one-sided, so I'll try and talk as little as possible, just for everyone's benefit, really. We'll turn to your manifesto first, please, Hannah. Your manifesto has two main themes, two main ideas within it. Your ideas for what you call the SSS campaign and Project MHA. For that first point, your idea for SSS sounds an awful lot on paper like something that was run by Cohen, our VP support, called Shag Week, which is Sexual Health Awareness and Guidance Week. How does your campaign differ from that? Are you going to build on things that Cohen's already done? Are you going to change things? What are your plans there?
Koyan's idea was definitely fantastic. It was great, and I noticed a lot of freshers were utilising the free packages and everything that was available. This just goes a little bit further in the sense that it's getting people to openly talk about it in videos that can be streamed across and accessed at any time, and it will be opening up debates about sexuality, something which is sort of a bit, it's like it's not very openly talked about a lot, and it's not given the chance to be debated about. So for people who have trouble coming out, it's a great opportunity for them to look for some support, look for something accessible, and a way for them to come out in something that's, you know, it's not so, it's very like readily available, and it gives them a chance to get their opinion across, but also it gets like approval from other students who are going through the same thing, and it allows for more support to be available.
Thank you very much. And again, second question about the manifesto. So the two main things, we've covered the Triple S campaign. Project MHA, I suppose that means mental health awareness, but that's a bit vague in itself. So I just want to get some clarity from you. You say that you want to work towards the ultimate elimination of stigma surrounding mental health on campus, and this is a quote here, running sessions alongside the Happiness Cafe. What do you think those sessions will entail, and what are you actually trying to achieve with those sessions?
So the sessions can be things like, they can be private sessions one-on-one with students and the zone members, or they can be other sessions with other students who are willing to volunteer some of their time to really be able to give someone a hand who's struggling with mental health. And the main aim ultimately is to stop students feeling like it's something they should hide, something that they should be ashamed of, because mental health is something that's a part of us, and if you are struggling with it, then definitely you don't do it in silence. And from personal experience this year, not just with me, but watching people around me, the worst thing that you can do is feel like you have to be shut down and feel that you have to be, you know, oh, I don't want to tell anyone that I'm struggling because they'll think I'm looking for attention, or because they can't deal with my mental health right now, and it's not nice. You don't want to feel like you have to be clamped down when you really want to speak out to people.
Okay, Hannah, thank you very much for those two answers there. I think we'll take a pause from listening to me. Have we got a question from the floor to break things up? A hand went straight over there, yourself. Is there a microphone? Yes, microphone is coming. Don't forget to tweet on the hashtag SurreyDecides. And your question, please.
Hiya. So you just mentioned the idea of, alongside the Happiness Cafe, some students or perhaps zone members being available for a kind of discussion with students. Were you aware that that tends to require quite a bit of training, and how are you planning to fit that into our schedules and fund that for the zone members who only commit 2 hours a week?
Thank you very much. Hannah, did you pick up all that question there?
Can you just repeat it one more time? It cut out a little bit, sorry.
So the question was regarding sort of how your policy around the mental health cafes is going to require a lot of training for the students and the zone members that are going to be put forward for that. How are you going to fit that in around busy student schedules? Does that kind of get the gist of it? Yeah.
So the training for that kind of thing would be beneficial to really all zone members to have anyway. And like I said, it's a voluntary part-time role, so whenever the zone members would be available, we can set up some sessions then, and if, you know, they can find time outside of campus hours, so like typical 9 to 5, 9 to 6, to then speak one-on-one with students, that would be great, and that's completely up to them. It was mainly just an idea that I was looking to build upon, and obviously would look to discuss with the VP and see how that would develop and work out.
Okay, are you satisfied with that answer? Yeah. Lovely jubbly. Thank you very much, Hannah. We will have a general question. I've got a lovely one written down for you here. So the role descriptor for Support Zone on the union website says that students who run for this position should be passionate about student wellbeing, campaigning and helping others. Can you give me and the people watching and listening here and at home an example of how you can demonstrate that you are passionate in this way?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
The role descriptor for the Support Zone on the union website says that students who run for this position should be passionate about student wellbeing, campaigning and helping others. Can you give us an example of how you can demonstrate this?
So something I have done or what I will do?
Something you have done previously, an example of where you've shown this quality in the past.
I have currently volunteered to be a super angel. I would have been doing it this will be my third time doing it in a row. And it's great because although people just think, oh, you direct freshers, you tell them where to go, and it's not. You do speak to them, you kind of calm their fears a little bit, you give them a little bit of information for them to know their whereabouts, and you give them like low down information that the university wouldn't give them, like quick tips about how to get into town or what's cheapest to do around side. And the little things of information, they do retain it and they remember. And it's little things at that time when you're really stressed out that helps move things along.
Thank you very much, Hannah. And then finally, to wrap up this support zone by-election debate, the standard sort of question, I want in a tweet why people should vote you number one for this position. You can have a couple of seconds to think up your answer there. I also can't see you, so give me some kind of signal when you're ready to go.
So in like 140 characters?
That would be it, yeah.
You should vote for me because I've got the experience, I'm willing to put in the time, I'm willing to put in dedication, and I will make sure that I hear you, support you as much as I can. It can't just be every single student on campus, but I will do my absolute best and to do the best that I can. My bad.
That's a very long 140 characters, but fair enough. Thank you very much, Hannah. And that's it then from the first debate of the evening. That's it for the support zone by-election. Voting will open after all of tonight's proceedings have finished. Thank you very much. Can I move? Cool. should ask if you want to change sides. Do they do that in lacrosse? I don't know. In football, whoever wins the... Try and fix it, so I've not actually got any time to look at what sport is going on. That's cute. Right. Yes. All right, we good? Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. It's the one you've all been waiting for. It's the Rumble-In 03-MS01. It's the NUS referendum debate. To my right, I have the Yes to NUS campaign, led by Jake Roberts, and the No to NUS campaign on my left, led by Alex Mackenzie-Smith. We tossed a coin before we started proceedings to see who will start the debate. So in this referendum debate, we haven't provided an opening question, but given each candidate 2 minutes to make a short, 2-minute long, funnily enough, opening statement. So toss the coin, Jake won the toss, and we'll begin the debate once I can get my phone out of my pocket and find a timer. So, Jake, when you are ready, please begin.
I'd like to make a statement before the actual 2 minutes begins. I'd like to just say that my thoughts are with the victims, many of them young, of the atrocious attack that happened in Manchester last night. I'm sure despite the partisan nature of this referendum debate, both sides can agree it was an atrocious attack and an unnecessary loss of innocent life.
Very well spoken on behalf of all of us here in Surrey. Jake, if you could begin, please.
Cool. So before we start the debate tonight, I just wanted to defend the principle of national student unionism, because at its core, that is what the NUS represents. Because as students, we all live under the same government, the same economy, the same society. The idea that the interests of Surrey students somehow run opposed to those in other parts of the country is simply false. We're all suffering from tuition fees and the removal of maintenance grants. We're all suffering from Britain's failing housing market, and we're all suffering with the cuts to the NHS and mental health services, which many students rely on and use. These students are national in scope and demand a national organisation of students as a result. Students and SUs are stronger when they come together and pool their resources to form such a union. By coming together, students have created an institution that is far more powerful than any one SU alone. It can organise together. It can organise students on a national scale, it can run highly visible national campaigns, it can get access to government ministers and lobby them. Simply, it can be a more effective vehicle for change. Leaving the NUS would undermine this and make the student movement more divided. This is exactly what our government wants, because it knows when we're divided, we're weaker. We pose less of a threat to their plans. It makes their attempts to create an unfair market in higher education easier. The principle of a national union of students therefore needs to be boldly defended by all of us. The NUS is not a perfect institution, but as a democratic body, it can change, and as the last conference has changed. For only 4% of the union's annual expenditure and a raft of benefits that flow back to us, it deserves our support and continued engagement. Surrey, vote yes to NUS.
Thank you very much. Alex, when you're ready.
So here we go again, another NUS referendum. What has changed since the last one? Nothing, and that is exactly the point. The NUS is the same organisation it has been for the last 20 years, ever since we started having these referendums. There is something that has changed, however, and that is you. What you do and what is important to you as Surrey students has changed beyond recognition in the last 20 years. You don't drink as much, you smoke less, you join sports clubs and societies. Society membership alone has doubled in the last 5 years. But where is the National Union on what is important to you? Nowhere on Wednesday afternoons, nowhere on society development, still selling booze and fags through NUS services. Something else has changed. Government has changed. They no longer tolerate NUS officers or entertain them. The one door we had to Westminster has now closed to us. In the whole debate over the higher education bill and the teaching excellence framework, NUS got 15 minutes on a select committee. 15 minutes. It is wrong, though, to say that they have given up the fight. Far from it. I am privy to a WhatsApp group with over 200 other sabbatical officers and full-time NUS officers fighting, plotting and planning on how to win back control of the NUS executive from the left. Make no mistake, there is the same conversation going on in hundreds of other phones, already trying to begin to defeat the moderates next year. What can Surrey do on its own, though? Lots. This year, we commissioned for the first time direct research to what our PGR students want. The NUS Postgraduate Committee failed to report anything at this year's conference. We have shown we can campaign locally and win support from all political parties. We have shown we can represent what you want on your courses, from more lecture capture to electronic coursework submission. Maybe one day there will be a national union of students worthy of the name, but today is not that day. Surrey, I'm asking you to join with Essex, Dundee, Loughborough, Glasgow, Southampton, Hull, Newcastle and Imperial and vote no to NUS.
Thank you very much. Okay, both sides of the campaign have provided manifestos, so we will begin in the usual kind of way with questions about policy mentioned on those. I will begin with the Yes campaign. So, one of the key aspects of the Yes to NUS campaign has been the NUS Extra card. The idea that this can get students discounts, can get them money off of things. Now, this card costs them £12 in order to purchase it, but nowadays most shops will take a student ID card as student ID, and apps like UniDays allow people with a confirmed university email address to get access to these discounts. So is this still relevant to students today?
Definitely. I think, obviously, UniDays and I think Student Beans is another one, apparently. Obviously, they do give students discounts without an NUS Extra card, but I don't see why that is a reason to leave. The NUS Extra, by being in it, you still get benefits. The average student saves about £50 per year from an NUS Extra card. It's also good for our union. They make a commission of about £5 on every card. Last year, we made about 13,000. This is where the £43,000 figure is a bit disingenuous, because although we obviously send the NUS money, we get money back, and it's a lot more complicated than just a one-way transaction. So I definitely think the NUS Extra brings not just students' benefits, but also the Students' Union here at Surrey.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, and on to the No campaign. So, again, I'm going to go with probably the leading issue in terms of the No campaign, which is that £43,000 a year. If we leave the NUS, and in your manifesto you tell us to think of what we could do with that money to really benefit the students of Surrey. Two parts to the question, really. Will we still get that money as part of the subvention, and how will that be spent in order to benefit students?
So to answer the first part of the question, will we still get the money? Yes, we would, if we can show the university that we're spending it towards something that will benefit students, which is obviously what the Students' Union is all about. The second part of the question, and how would we spend that? I can give a few examples. That could go towards each of the zones. It could go towards more support staff. I always say this, but I don't want to speak on behalf of COIN, but I'm going to because I'm up here. But COIN has really struggled with the amount of support staff she's had this year, and it's not a secret. The amount of appeals have gone up over 80% this year, and we offer academic advice, free academic advice to all students, and we've really struggled we only have one and a half member of staff, we really haven't coped, so that's another example of where that money could go.
Thank you very much. Okay, a general question then, moving away from the manifesto. So this year, the Students' Union have tried quite hard to create something called a South East regional network to lobby and work with other students' unions in the South East. If we leave the NUS, there are only 3 other universities in the southeast of England who aren't affiliated. That's Southampton, Imperial College and Essex. How can that be a better option than being part of the NUS?
So I think people need to remember that just because you're not a part of the NUS doesn't mean you're not going to feel the impact of what happens at a government level. Just because we're not on a list that says we're not affiliated doesn't mean that if something was to happen at a government level that was to possibly impact students, they wouldn't go on the list and go, oh, Surrey's not a part of the NUS. We're not going to apply that to them. We actually went and met with Southampton and had a really, really positive conversation with them about how they operate outside the NUS. They meet up with unions that are in and out of the NUS, share best practice, exchange ideas. We spent the whole day there, and they it's kind of how we, I guess, finally came to our decision that leaving was the best scenario because they've been out of the NUS for about 15 years now and operate exceptionally effectively. So we'd like to follow in their footsteps.
Okay, fair enough. And Jake, I think this, for some people, this next question is actually going to be a little bit of an elephant in the room, so I'm going to go straight for that. Over the weekend, I did a little bit of research, okay, and I've counted out that we've had 28 presidents of the National Union of Students since 1968. 12 of those are now Labour Party politicians, and 2 have become leaders of trade unions. Is the NUS a graduate scheme for the Labour Party, or does it actually represent students, whether they are politically left, right or centre?
I think the NUS is very representative of students. I mean, everyone on the NUS is democratically elected at NUS conference by delegates elected by students, 7 million students at universities across the UK. Obviously, there are links between the NUS and the Labour students. That they've historically been a big faction, but I don't think that means that this factionalism, if that's even a bad thing. I mean, let's not forget democratic debate at a national level is a very healthy thing. What's best for students is a contentious issue. It deserves debate.
But the point I'm trying to make is that there isn't the debate in a sense because many people feel like it's dominated by the left wing. There were policies that were passed or that were discussed or meant to be discussed, submitted, asking the NUS to endorse policies that are straight out of the Labour Party manifesto. Is that what the National Union of Students is for? For Labour students to go to something bigger? Or is it for every student to represent them on education issues?
Right. The NUS is not a party political organisation. It doesn't affiliate with a political party. I mean it in that sense. I personally see no issue with the NUS putting forward motions. I don't know if you said they passed or not, endorsing Labour Party manifesto policies. Higher education policies are incredibly political. They depend on the government that's in power. So the idea that the NUS should ignore political parties or political issues is ridiculous. And once again, I do stress that the NUS National Conference is a mass democratic event. Students' unions across the country elect delegates to go there and then they vote on it. If people want the NUS to be more representative, maybe they should actually have debates for our NUS delegates, which we don't have here at Surrey, and maybe they shouldn't group it together with our SAB elections during SurreyDecides.
Okay, thank you very much. I will take a short break from talking and take a question from the floor. Anybody with a question for the delegates? It's a little bit difficult for me to see. Bright lights. No questions from the floor. Oh, one right over in that far corner.
His question might be better.
Bear with us while we wait for the microphone to come across, just so they can hear us on the stream.
I've heard some rumours going around about alcohol and that the NUS do supply some free alcohol to Rubik's. Do you know what figure that is and how it would be affected if you leave? Like, I don't drink, so I don't care, but people do care.
We'll put that to the No campaign to begin with.
Unfortunately, it's not free, but the NUS have a buying consortium in which student unions can buy food and drink through it to get cheaper prices. However, our own union staff have found that we don't need the buying consortium to get cheaper drinks deals and food deals for students. If anything, it's actually a bit of a hindrance because there's only limited food and drink that we can buy, whereas if we leave, then we're able to negotiate our own deals locally or more widely, and therefore we'd be able to get ultimately better deals for students.
Okay, does that satisfy you with that answer, Jake? Have you got anything to add on that question?
Well, I mean, yes, the NUS operates a purchasing consortium. I don't see, again, how leaving makes it any better. We operate through the NUS purchasing consortium. We can still buy through other outlets at the moment. I don't see how it saves us that much money. And, yeah, that's my point.
Okay, Jake, thank you very much. Vote no. On your manifesto, you claim that progress in a national movement has slowed down and changes made are less well conveyed. I have in my hands, I can hold up to everybody here, this is motion 601 that was passed at conference. Now this motion details many things. It's made up of many amendments talking about changes to the democratic process of the NUS. This has just been voted in, including by some of our delegates. Why would we leave before seeing through this change?
So a motion was passed last year at NUS conference that our own previous Vice President Voice put in around restricting the abuse that goes on social media during student union elections. The NUS has done nothing with that. It was voted through pretty much unanimously and no progress has been made on it. I think that pretty much answers
what
that
evidence
question.
do you have on that claim, Alex?
Excuse me, sorry?
Do you have any evidence to back up that claim?
Us following up with the NUS, trying to find out what's going on and, well, us not seeing anything transpire from it.
Okay, because I could argue that our union is also ineffective on following up on motions that have been passed, so...
Okay, the discussion...
Is upon the NUS, not
the discussion is
Surrey
about the
Students'
National
Union.
Union of Students and not so much about our own union's behaviour. We'll save that for another
their
day.
implication is that that's what we're left with when we leave, so I think it is very relevant to discuss the current SU's practices, because we're saying that we can do it alone. What is this alone? This is what we've got at the moment, so I think it's a very relevant point.
Okay, fair enough. Matt, did I see a hand up there? Yeah, we'll take a question from the floor. Can you just give us a second for a microphone to get to your wave?
So, hi. So I actually attended a conference, Building Bridges Not Walls, run by the NUS. It was one of the 3 NUS conferences that we went to this year. So it wasn't advertised anywhere by the Students' Union. I came to the talk by Malia, who spoke here at our Students' Union, thanks to your invitation. And that one of those things, there were 2 workshops I attended there. One was on tackling hate crime, and one was actually on tackling online bullying. And so the NUS is very much taking part in this debate. However, they're still in the phase of putting together a strategy and gathering information. Actually, their information was very good. They had hundreds of respondents to that survey that they put out in terms for kind of what social media we use and what best ways we could tackle online bullying. So my question is, knowing this, that the NUS is actually doing this, what would we do if we don't have access to this data and experience that the NUS now has with it? Thank you.
Okay, I think that's a question directed at the Leave campaign, yes?
Yes.
Alex.
I think I want to make it really clear that if you want to be part of a campaign, whether it's the national campaign against fees and cuts, whether it's student action for refugees, you don't need to be part of the NUS. All these campaigns are nationally accessible to anyone, whether you're a student or not. So my point is that the Surrey Students' Union could still engage in this debate, whether or not we're part of the NUS. We don't have to affiliate to them to be leading a campaign to join other voices across the UK that want to make change.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions from the floor for the Yes campaign? Has anybody got a question for Jake? Ooh, saw a hand there straight away, yes.
Hi. Personally, I don't feel like the NUS is that representative. One of the reasons being that Black Students Officer just got elected last week, and the person who was elected was someone who was Asian. So as a Black student, I don't feel like that represents me as a Black person. And that's a big struggle that the NUS has been. Well, it's a struggle for people outside of the NUS, but the NUS believes in political blackness, and that's something that I don't agree with, and I think a lot of Black people don't agree with. Another reason why I don't think that it's representative is because I saw a motion where the NUS voted to, I'm trying to remember exactly, but it was something about getting rid of the male gay representative in the NUS because they said that gay males weren't oppressed, so that was their reasoning. So I feel like the whole, white gay males weren't oppressed. So I feel like because of that, we say NUS is representative, but I feel like they pick who exactly they want to represent. So I guess my question would be, how would you say they are representing us, and how would you say they are appealing to students at Surrey? Because I feel like students at Surrey, we would represent white gay males and we would represent Black students, but the NUS doesn't seem to be doing that.
Thank you for your question. Jake.
I think we're focusing on very minor things in the NUS here. I think you are right that the... can we please honour that I'm speaking right now? Thank you. I think, yes, the NUS's position on political blackness is problematic. I still have to commend, though, that they have numerous autonomous liberation movements within the NUS, which I've done so much for people who have been oppressed in the past. They've elected Europe's first trans officer. You've got caucuses on, obviously we've talked about Black students, but also there's LGBT, international students, and so forth. Also, again, these things, we elect these people, and I know that there's been this portrayal that there's this massive disconnect between the NUS and the particularly Surrey's SU, but that's because I know the SAB probably won't like me saying this, but I don't see much engagement, serious engagement with the NUS from them and their campaigns. I go on the SU's website, I go to the Voice page, I go to the campaigns page, it's blank, there's nothing. You go to the support page, it's a button that doesn't go anywhere. The Boycott the NSS campaign was not on board, they say that's ineffective, it's because they didn't actually partake in it. You have to give in to the NUS, you have to give in to these collective bodies to get out of them and make them more representative. Yes, there's flaws with representation, but in these big institutions there always are. And as I said in my opening statement, the principle of a national union of students still stands very strongly. So what we do, we work from within, we change it. We don't just walk away and leave ourselves out in the cold. Thank you.
Alex, as a current SAB, I will allow you to come back.
I'm going to come back on 2 points there.
Okay.
We've sent students and sabbatical officers to conference. They've gone to Women in Leadership conference. We sent 6 students to LGBT plus conference. They've gone to Black students conference. We invited the president of the NUS, Malia Buatia, and Shelley Asquith, who's the outgoing Vice President of Welfare down here as well. We had Sarana, who's the Vice President of Higher Education at Cause Rep Assembly back in November. We also send all our officers on NUS training, which I may add, that it costs at least £500, give or take, to send every officer on NUS training. That's on top of the £43,000 that we're already spending. In terms of the fact, sorry, Jake, that you're saying that the NUS is representative, I have an article in front of me when the NUS hung out Kent Students' Union out to dry because they followed their policy on political blackness. Forgive me, I don't know all the members of One Direction's name off the top of my head, but a guy called Zayn was posted on their social media for being black. All the sabbatical officers received death threats because their students violently opposed what they were doing and what they were promoting. So naturally, Kent, who are currently affiliated to the NUS, got in contact with the NUS asking for help. They received no help. And when we had Malia Buatia down here, we asked her to her face what she did to help, and she lied to us. I can't be part of an organisation that doesn't back its students' unions when they're supposed to be affiliated to them.
Thank you for that response. I think we will come back to the issue of the outgoing president later, but I'd just like to put some of the emphasis onto yourself, Alex, with the No campaign. Now, you're probably aware of this, and I don't know if you are aware of this in the audience, but the University of Durham Students' Union held an NUS referendum and voted to leave in March 2010. Now, they rejoined the NUS 6 months later. So, we've held referenda in 95, 97, 99, 2003, 2009, 2012, 2015, and now we're holding this one. If we enter into this cycle and we vote to leave now, are we just going to do a Durham and, coining that phrase, are we just going to do a Durham and flit and flap between the two, ping-ponging in and out for eternity?
Well, I'd like to think no. If we leave, we're out. If students then wish to trigger a referendum, go and get 500 signatures. But as long as I'm here, and I've been here for 6 years, I will stand by the campaign I'm leading now to leave the NUS.
Okay, fair enough. And applause if you like. Yes, Malia Bouattia. Okay, I glossed over that quickly with that question, just to give you a moment to think. Now, as I'm sure we're all aware, Malia Bouattia has faced a lot of pressure in the press from what some might describe as the right-wing media, but she was found by an internal NUS inquiry to have made comments that could, this is a quote now, be reasonably capable of being interpreted as anti-Semitic. So an internal NUS inquiry found her guilty of anti-Semitism. This same internal report recommended that all she needed to do was apologise, offering no other sanction against her. Is this the kind of organisation we want to be part of?
The things that Malia Bouattia said, some of them dating from about 2011, I believe, were anti-Semitic. Do I believe she's an anti-Semite? That's a broader question that I'm not going to delve into. What I would stress is that the NUS is a lot more than just one president who has been voted out democratically by people such as our NUS delegates, some of whom are in the audience today, who voted for Shakira Martin, and she has been elected. So there were problems with Malia. She has been replaced. The students weren't happy. She is gone. I don't think there's any point going any further into the details of Malia Bouattia. That's really my point. I think, the NUS has its problems with anti-Semitism, but it doesn't stop me from believing in the principle of a national students' union that can voice student concerns on a national level, because Surrey students' concerns are the same as all those around the country. And I think we should work together and make the NUS better.
I'll flip back across to the No campaign then. As Jake mentioned, Shakira Martin has now been elected as the president of the National Union of Students. She says, I want to put the NUS back into the hands of its membership and send the message to the heart of government about what students want. Our conference delegates voted for her slate of independent reform candidates. They weren't affiliated with the left, they weren't affiliated with Malia Bouattia. When such drastic change is promised, along with some of the other policy that's been passed at conference, this can't be the right time for us to leave. Surely we should see this through now.
So to just address the first thing you mentioned, all the delegates that went, I wasn't one of them, but I believe that they all voted for Shakira and everyone else that she was backing. They were elected to go to conference. Of course, they're going to participate, and they're not just going to sit in a corner and tweet or Snapchat and be boring. Like, they got involved and they were engaged, which was fantastic to hear. But this is how it works. Shakira's been elected. It's going to be 6 months of her meeting some students, meeting some students' unions, meeting some people in government, if she's lucky enough to get through the door. And then it's going to be 6 more months of her trying to get re-elected. The impact she's going to have on us and other student unions is going to be pretty minimal.
Okay, fair enough. So you mentioned there that the president of the NUS might be able to, during that first 6 months, get to the ear of government, and if she's able to get into a second term. We tried to do that as Surrey, didn't we? We tried to lobby the government on the Teaching Excellence Framework whilst the Higher Education and Research Bill was passing through Parliament. We invited Jo Johnson, the Universities Minister, to come to Surrey but he ignored us. So how do we have the same lobbying power if we're not part of this national movement?
So I believe that's where we as Surrey and other student unions need to lobby their MP, their local MP, as much as possible. Myself and other elected officers have gone to meet Anne Milton, our local MP, on a number of occasions. I've hand-delivered her our Living at the Limit report, and pressed her for answers and issues on how she's going to tackle this. I honestly believe that is the way forward, and it doesn't mean that we stop trying. You know, we invited Joe Johnson a number of times down here. Yes, I'm not going to disagree with that. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to attend, but we don't need the NUS to write to a minister.
Can I come back on that point? So she said, Alex said that that if we were outside the NUS, her advice would be for us to lobby our MPs. We can do that anyway. Being in the NUS does not stop that. Secondly, on the point of failing to get Joe Johnson in, that reminds me of the plans for a Southeast network that the SU had, which have amounted to more or less nothing, because other SUs have realised that there is no incentive to do this when the structure of the NUS is already there. So I really do not see, especially from the lobbying perspective, and that's not the only thing that the NUS should be doing, nor does it do, but I really don't see from a lobbying perspective how being outside the NUS helps at all.
Alex?
So this is how Joe Johnson and other ministers see the NUS as a joke. Ty went to the Times Higher Education Awards on behalf of the Students' Union. He was invited, and he met Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson's first question to Ty was, "Oh, you're not going to tell me to teff off, are you?" Which Ty's response was, sorry, I'm paraphrasing here, was, "I just want to have a conversation with you about me and my job and what I do at the Students' Union." That's the association that government ministers have with students, thanks to the NUS. That's how seriously they take us. Again, I've said it, I don't want to be associated with that. I think it's a joke.
No, we're going to go to another question because we are a little bit short on time,
Okay.
I'm afraid to say. And it is one more question for yourself, so you will get a little bit more mic time.
Okay.
So your manifesto speaks about how, as members of the National Union of Students, we can shape national policy through national conference. Now, I like my stats and statistics as a mathematician, so I did a little bit more maths, and I counted up that there were 150 motions submitted to this year's conference. Among them were the following: a call for the NUS to support the abolition of the monarchy, the scrapping of the Trident nuclear missile system, a policy about national demonstrations, a submission to support particular policies from the Labour Manifesto. How can we get our policy ideas across if we have to wade through 150 other submissions to get our voice heard?
Can you clarify the question? I don't understand what you're asking.
So if we have a policy,
Yes.
and we want to submit it to conference,
Yes.
how can we get it heard amongst 150 other points, some of which many will feel clearly have no link to the National Union of Students or the work of students?
Okay, I think it's important to point out that most motions that go through the NUS are to do with bread and butter student issues, housing, student issues to do with on-campus care or fees, grants, bursaries, whatever. So I think to pick out a few of those more eccentric motions is probably a bit unrepresentative of the NUS on its half. I also will point out that those came from students. As a student movement, we have a right to have a policy, have a stance on these big national issues. I doubt that those passed, but I don't quote me on that. And I think we've definitely had an impact on student policy, on national policy, if you look back historically. 1992, students won an exemption from council tax thanks to NUS pressure. Also, if you look at the 2010 to 2011 sort of student movement that arose out of the tripling of tuition fees, you've now got a Labour Party which actually introduced fees in the first place.
This isn't a party political broadcast. We're here to talk about the National Union of Students.
I am talking about the National Union of Students.
No, you're talking about the Labour Party.
I'm talking about the student movement, which the National Union of Students is the organisational structure for.
Okay, go on.
Right. So the student movement obviously has, in 2010 and 11, there were vast protests. The NUS has run campaigns on free education, demonstrations. This was a position that was not part of the NUS during that time, which one could attribute the failure to counter the fees, fee tripling. And my point is that you've now got a major political party in Britain that is now unconditionally supporting free education and the return of grants. That wouldn't have come if the NUS and the broader student movement hadn't taken that direct action and put that issue on the agenda. So we are shaping national policy. It is happening before our very eyes.
I would just like to add the caveat there that some people will look at that policy adoption and purely see that as a vote-winning policy from the Labour Party as opposed to the result of any NUS pressure, just to add the other side of that argument. We'll have to wrap it up there, so one final question to you both. It's the perennial favourite. In a tweet, why should we vote? Yes to NUS or no to NUS? I'll give you a few seconds to put your 140 characters together. And it's just worth mentioning as well that during the vote there will actually be a sort of a general election poll as part of the Surrey 365 voting link when that comes out later. So you'll be able to show off your intentions as a student, how the student body will vote in the general election. It is just for fun. We're not electing a candidate for the University of Surrey, but it will give the union an idea of people's voting intentions. Are we both ready to go? Yeah. Alex, if you'd like to go first, please.
In a tweet, enough is enough. It's time to take back the money that Surrey students deserve to see and see the impact on them, not to the NUS. Please vote no.
Okay, thank you very much. Jake?
United we stand, divided we fall. Hashtag yes to NUS.
Okay, thank you very much to both sides of the debate, to all of you who joined us in O3 MSO1 or whether you were listening at home. Voting will open soon in the by-election and the referendum, plus that general election poll. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope you all had a wonderful evening. Thanks.